Hi, I'm Carissa with SMC Construction, and today I'm here with Summer, the EVP of Design for Cambria. So Summer, tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you come up with the designs for Cambria.
Hey there, I'm Summer Kath, Head of Design for Cambria, and super excited to be here today. I've been with the company for 22 years, Carissa.
Wow.
2 decades. I have progressed through many different departments, from a small business to who we are today. And my main role today is to design this amazing brand Cambria down in Lister, Minnesota.
Tell me a little bit more about your story with Cambria and how it became.
It's a long one. No, it's a fun story, actually. I grew up in the sawdust. So environments like this are very comfortable to me. My father was a cabinet maker my whole life, still is. My brother runs the business here in Savage, Minnesota. So I'll have to hook you guys up with them at some point. But I was actually getting married, building a house, doing all those things in my 20s, and I found Cambria through my father. The day I was picking out my countertops was the day that this little chip box showed up at my dad's shop. Was one of our sales guys who's still with us today, Scott Genuine, dropped it off. And I decided to put Cambria everywhere in my house. So I was one of the first customers ever, kind of like the Hair Club for Men story. And I got a phone call from the director of marketing at the time, Lisa Vincent, who's amazing, and asked if I would do a segment on WCCO as a homeowner talking about my Cambria. And of course, I was like, absolutely, I like the camera. Come on over. And ended up being a couple-hour conversation about what I do. I was in marketing, I was young, I was aspiring, and she talked about this company, Cambria, who at the time was only in Minnesota. There were, a lot of efforts being put into this brand that nobody knew. I mean, I had just learned of it. And she lured me in saying that the Davis family is investing in growing this brand, this business, to be a national luxury brand. And why don't you come on board and help us do this? And to me, that was so exciting. I met Marty Davis, our CEO, probably a week later at our very first IMS showroom opening, which is on the 5th floor. Kathy Ordal was our manager. She's a icon of Cambria, if you have been with us for a long time. And I said yes, and I jumped right in and started in marketing, which is great. And I was doing things that if you're in a business that you're employee 30, you're doing everything. You're answering phone calls, I was designing brochures, which I have no business doing graphic design, but it doesn't matter because there's no one else to do it. And when I was invited, probably within the first 3 years of being at Cambria, and we're just building the business and having a lot of fun and working really hard, I was invited to come down to the plant in our pilot lab and work with the engineers. Now, there was no job description, there was no instruction. It literally was, we didn't have, probably the funds to go out and get a big creative gun to be our creative director. And so Marty probably looked around, and we had Bruce Gebhardt and Scott Genuine and Summer. Well, Summer looks like the right one that's going to go do the design work for now. And
Sure.
So I was like, and this is going to be in addition to all the things that you're doing. You need to now help the engineers and figure out what we need to do. And at the time, granite was luxury. So this is 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so we were aspiring to innovate in our product. At the time, engineered quartz is what it was called, had a look of like this kitty litter, like really, small particulates, and it wasn't luxury at all. It was like this up and coming super stone kind of thing. And, Marty knew, he's like, we need to create something that is looked at as high-end, luxurious, beautiful, what everybody wants. I mean, that was like the instruction I got.
Sure.
So I went, dug in.
Nice. I remember when Cambria first came out, I was working at a flooring store up in Isani, and there was like 8 colors, I think. And it was like you said,
kind of small palette.
The speckled, browns and, dark colors that are not requested much today.
Well, it's interesting that things usually have a 20-year cycle.
Oh, for sure.
So, back then, Ubatuba granite was everything and luxurious and expensive. Now you can't even give it away. But those earth tones, which we had on the walls, and we had the cherry cabinets and the oak cabinets and all the walnut, is coming back.
Yes.
right? But it's coming back and expressing in a much more modern, fresh way. And that's a huge part of my role, is being ahead of, those patterns.
Awesome. Awesome. How do you develop the Cambria designs? What is your process?
These secrets are usually not told. So my process, it's evolved, of course, like anything, right? As you grow up in a business, you want to continue to work on being, the best you can be, and providing, my services to Cambria and having the best designs. So in the beginning, it was very much looking, because we were so new, and when the palette is 20, you have to grow that bouquet to make sure that we had the assortment, so that, like, now today you have a Cambria floor stand display here. We need the assortment for all of your client types. And so the beginning was, how are we going to fill out that bouquet to make sure that we have something for our target demographic and all the different nuances within. So the beginning was filling out the different colorways and what were the colorways that were desired at the time. We were really only Midwestern in the beginning. So, of course, it was like all those earth tones, and the black granite countertop was hot back then, so we had a black, we, kind of filled that in. And as we grew our business out of the Midwest, into the coast, that's when we had to diversify in the palette. So at the time, it was literally just studying the markets and understanding what we needed in our palette. Also, what were our existing capabilities of architecture? Look at today. Today, we actually have really cool things that you can't even find in nature. Back then, we were studying nature. But then as we continued to grow up, we were a national company. We were becoming this brand of luxury, and innovation was a huge pillar of our success. Then it's my job to look at what are the things that only we can do that people will love and will be really hard for our competition to figure out. I mean, when we started, there were 3 quartz competitors. Today, as we all know, there are hundreds. And they are hungry to take all of our ideas. And that's why we have patents on our designs.
Awesome. That being said, I know we talked a little bit about picking the names and the names of the product. And I know there's a little bit of history when it comes to the name selections of products. Can you expand more on that?
Yes. Yeah, I know I get asked that all the time. When I wasn't even at the company, it was the idea, I think, of Marty's wife, Anne. Because Cambria, the name comes from Wales. The family has Welsh history. And Cambria was the Cambrian Mountains, so that's where we got the name. I think Marty's dad came up with that. Which is super cool, because that just tells you how family orientated this was from the beginning. Like, we can't afford to go get a big agency to come up with this stuff. We got to do it ourselves. And literally, we still do that. The names of we called them colors now, designs, were to be named after places in Wales, so that it felt like there was an origin story around this, like, lore of Cambria. When I started to take over, then I had the duty of naming, and I still do. And we really do try to stick within the UK of finding names within the UK of places, or like Waterstone is a bookstore in the UK, just something that has that nod to the United Kingdom. But I'll reverse engineer it. I'll find a name like Everly that I love, which is the #1 baby girl named Minnesota in 2022. And then I find a place in the UK.
Okay. Interesting. I like that. I like that it's very family orientated, and that's one reason that always drew me to Cambria, and then it's from Minnesota. I think that is a huge bonus for us, as we like to source things locally as much as possible. Working with local cabinet makers, countertops, hardware, all of that. So I think that's really great.
I used to spend a lot of time in Toronto. When we were opening up our Canadian marketplace, I was given the task, because I've had other positions at Cambria, business development and developing markets, and I was given the task to go to Toronto, open Canada, and get native. And I went to Toronto a week, a month for 8 years. It was a huge part of my life. And it's very English there. And every street on Toronto has an English name. And I can tell you how many times we'd be driving down, going to an appointment, I'd be like, Kingston, that's perfect, write it down. So I definitely got a lot of inspiration from Toronto, which was very British.
Awesome.
So I haven't named any after my children. Although I will tell you, my children are like, come on, like.
So we talked a little bit about being family-oriented, locally sourcing. Tell me more about how the sustainability with Cambria, because I think that's a big part of your guys' company.
It is. I think number one, being in America and domestic and vertically integrated from our quartz mine is in North America, Canada, but it doesn't come too far to Minnesota. And for us to produce everything here and to go on trucks domestically, that alone is quite in a carbon footprint sustainable. A lot of our competition is not here, and their incarnate's coming across the ocean, of course, and granite, marble, all of that's coming from all over the world. I think our practices in sustainability are massive. Number one, the mine where we get all of our quartz, which we own that mine. Everything like all the energy is actually generated from water. So, things like that, all the water in our plant here in Minnesota is recycled. You have to use a lot of water when you're making this product, when you're polishing this product, and we have huge vats in a huge room that actually the water comes in, gets recycled and reused in the whole plant. And I would also say in a comparison to, let's just say, natural stone, when you're the process of cutting those huge blocks, a lot of water is used that then goes into all the vegetation around it and really it's damaging. It's quite damaging. And just think about all the cutoffs that go out. Our process at our plant, when we're actually extracting the quartz, does not damage any of the vegetation around us. So we are very environmentally conscious as well.
Awesome. I know visiting the plant was definitely an experience when we went there and saw the whole process, and it was very interesting to see all the different ways that you guys do things that are sustainable and environmentally friendly and all of that. So I really enjoyed seeing all of that. That was great. Now, from design standpoint, what is the process like on your guys' end, from the design selection to installation? I think that's a common question that we get asked from clients.
And so just to clarify, are you talking about the design process of how we design getting all the way to installation, or are we talking about a homeowner and designer making a design selection?
So once we've picked a selection for you guys and sent it through, how does that design process go forward? I know there's like layouts and then lots of different stages.
Yeah, great question. Because if I'm in here picking out my Cambria, like I pick Bentley, and then basically what's going to happen is you guys work with Select Surfaces. Select Surfaces is one of our installers in the Twin Cities. We certify our installers. I think it's really important to understand that Cambria doesn't just work with everybody. I think that's important for you, especially because that is your brand and your name on the work that's going to be done. They'll go out, Select Surfaces, through Remodel. They're going to go out and measure the cabinets, take that and submit that to Cambria. They're going to get an estimate. I'm sure they give that back to you. Yep. You then put that into your whole bid. And if it's let's do it, all of that goes into our fab shop. So everything in the Twin Cities is fabricated, cut per specification in our Minnesota fab shop. So it is cared for by Cambria owned. It's not like that everywhere. So you guys are lucky here in Minneapolis. You get to work directly with us. In other areas, we have DCs that sell to independent fabricators. From there, the turnaround, then we have fabricated pieces that Select comes and picks up in Belle Plaine, Minnesota, and then delivers and installs to the homeowner. And of course, all of how that works is very organized and maintained. Cambria is the word we like to use is persnickety, very persnickety about how we do business, about how we present ourselves, and making sure that down to that installation, it's as perfect as possible. And I think what's even more important is the service after the sale, which I'm sure you talk about with your customers. We have this lovely 866 Cambria number, which goes into our 13 people in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and anyone can call. you're going to get a live person in average 10 seconds, and they can handle anything. So you have a chip, something seems wrong, and we'll send people out free of charge to take care of it.
That's awesome.
So that is something no one in our industry does for free.
Correct. Years ago, I had a client that needed to reach out, and I gave her the number. I talked to her about it a little bit. She called. An hour later, she had already called me back and said that she had an appointment for the next day. So she was super happy. It was great customer service, and that was another just check mark on my list of making sure the client is happy and their project is fulfilled. So.
Yeah, and I think also, for your clients, the fact that we have a transferable warranty, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because it's for the life of the product. So if you have homeowners that are kind of keep moving up, they sell the house, it's still covered, and they don't have to register. You literally have to call 866 Cambria and just prove that you have Cambria. Take a picture. Literally, they'll be like, take a picture or FaceTime with me.
Sure.
And we've had people calling who think they have Cambria. And we say, oh, sorry, that's not Cambria. But you know what, we're going to come. We have actually gone out and helped people. So probably
awesome.
Shouldn't, but yeah, it's, kind of Midwestern team here that we're nice people.
Minnesota nice.
There you go.
Perfect. What kind of trends are we seeing in 2024 going into 2025?
I love it. That is a huge part of my role, is to be sure that I'm understanding, where we are today and where we're going in the next 5 years. And like I said, there is that turnover of the past 20 years coming into the kitchen. We've been living in the white world, this cool, bright white world for, a while.
Yes.
There you go. But what we're really seeing, it's not going away. And parts of the country like Florida is not giving up on bright white. They're just not going to move into that warm world. But we are here definitely in the middle of the country and parts of, the West and mountain towns for sure. But I mean, those walnut cabinets are coming back, the warm natural cabinets and the warm whites. And so, we have been introducing designs that are warmer whites, but a nod to the cool white, because we know that some people still want the cool white cabinets. It's probably the number one selling for most cabinet companies. And I talk to a lot of other adjacency industries as to what their plans, what's their product development, what do they see coming, so that, because we have to live together, right? The backsplash and all the cabinets and the dual cabinet finishes and all that kind of thing, and color. It is here. I opened up a House Beautiful yesterday, and I never read that magazine. I'm always looking at like wallpaper and things of like talking about the future, or like going to Salone and Milan and like what's coming in the next 5 years, because I need to know now. But to look at what is mainstream, House Beautiful, everything was bright colors and chocolate brown cabinets, and it's here. And if you have those mainstream publications showcasing that, then everybody's getting a lot more comfortable with putting that in their house. And for us, the countertops have to be timeless. We want fresh, like this is a fresh new take on a white countertop because it has a texture in it. But it still has to maintain that timeless aspect of it, because most homeowners, especially in a renovation, they're like, I don't want to change this out ever, until they redo the whole kitchen. So that we have to pay attention to those things too. Even though color is here, like that green full countertop probably wouldn't sell too many.
Right.
And that's my body of work. That's my scorecard.
Yes. I do love the addition of like just adding a color
element
splash in there, like this one back here with the green veining. It was my favorite one personally.
Ivy Bridge.
Yes, I love Ivy Bridge. It's definitely been my favorite. I know when we designed this kitchen, because we wanted a white showroom to keep it neutral for clients making their selection, so we weren't taking away from what their design was going to be. But I wanted to add a fun element somewhere in the showroom, and that was a big point for me.
Yeah, it's subtle. You have to really get close to it to see that there's that glimmer of sparkle in there.
Yes. Absolutely. So one thing that I've noticed that's new within the last couple years is the texture in the countertops. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So in our trend spotting, and of course we're constantly looking for ways to innovate, differentiate Cambria, and some of the themes that were in the last 5 years that have been so strong is just an interiors texture is becoming everything. Like boucle is back. The fabrics and the walls. Even in the cabinets, like cerused texture in cabinets is really like a hot thing. And as as I and my team are tracking these things, it's then we're thinking, well, how does that translate into Cambria? We know that we have a matte finish. The satin ridge was one, so it had texture with the raised veining, and that's where Inverness was really born. It's like, what else can we do with these veins? And it's really a partnership with our engineering team, who they're the brilliance that figures this out, because we're doing things that have never been done before, and they don't say no. Like, only one time they ever said no to me. And so we're prototyping. We have this little prototype lab, and that's where we get to have the fun and do things that seem impossible. And the first time I saw, and it wasn't this one. I think one of the first ones that we did was maybe the gold. It was the gold. Inverness gold was the very first one, because we were also exploring the alloys. And one way we thought we could do it was gold that looked metallic in this kind of, at the time it didn't have a name yet. It was like debossing, we were calling it, or indented. And I was like, holy smokes, this is like, feels amazing. What is this? How does this translate in a full countertop? Is it too much? So we got to go through that whole process. And I was like, let's do this in like 5 colorways. And so we're like, we got to do bronze, and we got to do, this. And when we saw full slab, and then what we do in the process also, looking at, and you guys don't have it here, but you've seen at the plant, when you look at a full slab, sometimes you can't visualize what it's going to look like in a countertop. And so looking at an Inverness full slab, you're kind of like, but then you put it into an actual install, and you see how it's going to actually translate. You're like, whoa, blow my mind. So we do a lot of that, like, because we own our own fab shop, so we can cut stuff up all the time and look at it. And we launched the 4 colors first, the bronze, the blue one, the black one. And then the whole tone-on-tone white thing started to become like everything. So I'm like, we got to do a white one. And this is where frost came. And I remember, and if you shine a light on this vein, it has a little bit of a sparkle to it, but you can only see it when you put a light on it, which I love, because it's like a surprise and delight. You didn't know it if you don't know it.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So you do that with your customers. And when this baby first came off the polishing line, and I don't always go down to the polishing line when newbies are going through, because trials are happening all the time. But this one, I was like, this is a really special one. And I grabbed team who've been working on it. I'm like, we gotta go. It's like hike on the other side. It's 1 million square feet, right? It's like, let's go. And it was coming down, and everybody was down there, and all the lights are on it because they're inspecting it. We inspect every single slab, because it's gonna be in a house someday or some space. And I looked at that, and I was like, this is special. I knew it, like, in all of my heart and soul, that this was going to sell a lot, and it did, and it still does, which is amazing.
Yes, I do love this one, and I was really glad that we picked this one for our island.
Yeah, it's so, what I love is that it's just universally beloved, because it's soft on your eyes, it's tonal, but it has something unique to it. And that's the best part, is when you can have the holy grail of like, soft, subtle, and special.
Right.
Otherwise, if it's just a plain color, which we don't have a lot of just straight out solid,
right,
because we can't patent a solid design.
Gotcha.
And that's just a price game to the bottom.
Okay.
In that situation. I mean, Cambria, you may think it's expensive or real high luxury. I can't ask for the price as I'm in the Chanel store. It's not that at all. I mean, people may perceive us being this very expensive product, but in fact, if you really look into it, we're not that much more expensive than the other, comparables. And all the things you get, so they call it attainable luxury, all the things you get around it, the service after the sale, the 866, the high quality of quartz, all those things, they have value. And that's a lifetime value. They have to remember that you're investing in for your home. And I always say, like in your kitchen, your countertop is the one thing you touch the most. Invest in what you touch the most.
Yes, that's always been something I've recommended to customers. Your light fixtures, how often are you handling your light fixtures? Where can we make price cuts to get you this beautiful piece in your home?
Yeah.
It definitely, with these new textures, appeals to all the senses, which I really enjoy.
Mhm.
You know, the visual movement, the texture. It's just a beautiful piece.
Yeah, and the alloys, do you guys sell much of the alloys?
I haven't. Definitely something I would love to see
Mhm.
done in some of my projects, though. That is not one that we've had any clients select yet.
There's always a chance.
Yes, but beautiful pieces.
Yeah, we kind of feel, when you're innovating and doing things that, people just haven't seen before, you don't see that in the magazines or even in nature. It takes time, I think, for people to kind of get comfortable with, have brass in my countertop.
Right.
But it's something that's everywhere else in your kitchen, your fixtures, and so it's complementing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the texture of that satin ridge is like begs to be touched.
Yes.
So we keep working on you to sell that.
I'm gonna try really hard. I definitely love the ones with the metallics in it and the brass. They're beautiful pieces.
Do you guys sell much Everly?
We have done Everly. In the past, I've done Britannica quite often. I always have people looking at that one. That's always a first look.
Entree,
Yeah. They've all been different. I don't think I've ever done the same Cambria
Oh, wow.
in any project. So, which I enjoy because it's fun to see all the different colors and styles and everything come together. So that's been enjoyable.